So my next guest is the author of The Success Mindset. His name is Dr. Ryan Gottfredson. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
So how do we keep this success mindset amidst all this, pandemic and being home and being isolated? How do we keep that mindset fresh on our mind?
It's such a great question. And what we've got to realize is our mindsets are foundational to everything that we do. See, our mindsets are our mental lenses that shape how we see the world. And oftentimes we're just not conscious of our mindsets. And so hopefully just by having this discussion, we're going to become more conscious of how we are seeing the world. And that gives us the opportunity to change our mindsets.
So, as part of your title, you have success in life, work, and leadership. So, this seems like it covers personal stuff as well as work stuff. How can you have the same mindset for success in such different categories?
Yeah, wonderful. So I'm a leadership professor at Cal State Fullerton, and I come at this mindset perspective from a leadership bent and also from an academic bent. And what I've found is that across the last 30 years of mindset research is that there's 4 different mindsets that have been rigorously studied that have been shown to drive success in all areas of our lives. And so I believe that my book is perhaps the most comprehensive and research-backed book on mindsets to date. So I'm really excited to introduce it to the world.
So, I've read extensively, right, doctor, that our minds are wired negatively. And if we don't wire them in a positive manner, it's hard to get rid of the negativity.
Well, we are biased towards the negative. I'm not sure I would say it's necessarily wired towards the negative. And that's one of the things that I love talking about mindsets, is because our mindsets literally are the mental wiring in our prefrontal cortex. So we've all got wiring.
Where is that? Here?
Negative.
Somewhere here?
Yep, right here in the front.
Right here.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
So we've all got wiring for seeing things in a negative way, and we've got wiring for seeing things in the positive way. Now, how we actually see the world is dependent upon how strong that wiring is relative to each other. So if our negative wiring is stronger, that means that it's going to fire louder and quicker than if we have than our positive wiring, which fires just softer and slower. And so if we could change our wiring by strengthening our positive mindset neural connections, then we could really become more wired for the positive. And we're seeing gratitude practices and journals is a huge part of shifting that wiring. Is that if we can engage in small little practices like that, we can develop more positive mindsets.
So right now, Doc, I had a bad day yesterday. It was one of those days that everything went wrong. So how do I keep that success mindset? Like right now, it's still fresh on my mind. Like all this stuff that went wrong, and I feel like I woke up negative today. How do I get out of that frame of mind and into the success mindset?
Well, first part is you've already done it. You're self-aware about it. And until we become self-aware, there's nothing we're going to be able to do about it. But then what you've got to do is you've got to engage in some sort of small interventions that activate the more positive mindset neural connections. So one of the tools that has been a game changer for me is a book I've got right here on my desk. It's called the 5-Minute Journal. And it's the first thing I do every morning. So every morning I answer 3 questions. What are 3 things I'm grateful for? What are 3 things that would make today amazing? And I fill in some self-affirmations. And just by doing that, I'm activating those positive mindset neural connections. And if that isn't enough, then I generally will go to YouTube videos that I know that activate those more positive mindsets.
So how do you introduce this type of material to your spouse, to your children, to your friends? Isn't it a little hard to deliver the message to those closest to you?
It can be a challenge for sure, but I think we could all resonate with the idea that how we see the world shapes how we think, how we learn, and how we behave. Let me give you a quick example of this. And I'm kind of ashamed to admit this, but for most of my adult life, I would see homeless people and those asking for assistance as not doing their best. And when I would see them as not doing their best, I was quick to be critical of them. And I was less likely to help them. But then I was inspired by Brene Brown in her book Rising Strong, and she encouraged me to ask and to see them as if they are doing their best. And when I see them as doing their best, it leads me to ask the question, what in the world has happened in their life that has led them to believe that this is the best way to live? And as I ask that question, I quickly grow empathetic. And I want to do what I can to support them in the way that is going to be most beneficial for them. And so here's just an example of, do we see others as doing their best or not doing their best? And that's going to shape how we think about them and how we behave towards them, and overall how successfully we navigate in that situation. And so I think that that's a message that most people can resonate with.
Yeah, no, you just took a common thought a lot of us have that are ugly and, lack empathy, and turn it on its head. And it's basically the same thought process, just approach from a different way that is more human and more, in touch with real world realities.
Yeah. So we're just changing the lenses. And when we change the lenses, we change how we think, how we learn, and how we behave. And that's why our mindsets are so foundational to what we do. And that's why I love focusing on them. Because if we can improve our mindsets, we can improve essentially every aspect of our lives.
Well, this is amazing. Where do we buy your book besides Amazon, of course, which is the
Yeah.
only place we can go to right now, right?
Yeah, any major book sellers will have it. Also, if you want to go to my website, I have a lot of promotional giveaways associated with the book. So if you buy the book, I'll give you the audio book for free. So go ahead and check out my website. It's ryangottfredson.com to get any of those promotional giveaways.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, and all the best to you and your family in these difficult times.
Likewise, and thank you so much for having me on.